Yo, welcome back to another one. Blue is our city, Manchester City fan channel. This video is kind of overdue. I've been thinking about making this video for a while and I haven't made it. Haven't really had a need to make a video about a midfielder in a while because the team has really been flowing. If you watch this channel, you would know that I've talked about us needing a midfielder in the beginning part of the season when we were struggling. Now that we're flying, everything's looking good. We haven't really needed a midfielder. But now with Kevin De Bruyne out for 4 to 6 weeks, we really got to ask ourselves the question, who is going to step up for Manchester City? So if you're watching this video, just know we're going to be asking that question. We're going to be looking at who could step up. Could it be Foden? Could it be Bernardo? Who could it be? Somebody else on the team. So we're going to be answering that question. And just before we get into it, I really want to shout you guys out. Thank you for liking the video, subscribing. Please, if you're just watching the channel, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to get at me in the comments. It just helps us really get bigger and share the love nationwide with other City fans. So if you're watching, let's get into it. So the real question is, at the end of the day, with Kevin De Bruyne now being out with the injury, this man has a question he has to answer. Pep Guardiola has to think about who is going to step up in that midfield role. And that midfield role could be, just a player who's going to be same position as Kevin, really playing a 10. Sometimes Kevin plays the false 9, as we've seen sometimes this season. But Kevin also likes to play the right side of the midfield. So Guardiola is going to really have to look at the team and figure out who's going to get us by this next 4 to 6 weeks with, Kevin De Bruyne being out. So as we get into that and we go into the show, we really got to ask ourselves, what does Kevin really provide for the team? With Kevin De Bruyne being out for 4 to 6 weeks, what does Kevin De Bruyne really provide for the team? Honestly, we all know that he's one of the illest creators in the Premier League. But I think Kevin brings more to that, especially when you talk about the Premier League itself. I'm not talking about other competitions. I'm just strictly talking about the Premier League. In the Premier League, he did not start off the season the way we all ideally wanted him to. So now that he's been, finding his form and you're seeing the assists start to pick up. And even when he was slumping back when we beat Burnley 5-0, you know what I mean? It's like he was still getting, I think he had 6 assists at that point, but he just hasn't had the goal tally. So really what we're looking for is somebody who could create, and there's somebody who could possibly be able to score goals. And now with Kevin De Bruyne being out, we really got to ask ourselves the questions. But if you're new to Manchester City or you know a little bit about Manchester City history, one thing that we all know is that, or one thing you should know, is that we've been down this road before. We've seen Kevin be out significant parts of the season. Matter of fact, it's probably when I was wearing, when we was rocking this jersey that I got on right now. And that's the reason why I got on this jersey, because that season, in the 18-19 season, Kevin De Bruyne was out damn near the whole season. And it was really, I think, a chance for Bernardo to shine at that point, and Bernardo really put the team on his back. And we got over the hurdle, just winning Premier League narrowly, right? So what are we really talking about today? We're talking about who will step up in that role with Kevin De Bruyne being out for 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully it's only going to be 4 to 6 weeks. Looking for 4, but we got to ask ourselves the questions. We got some games. We got to continue the momentum right now, because United is kind of doing their thing. So they looking like the top team in the Premier League. It's going to be up to us, because we're going to have to play them at some point. They got a game coming up pretty soon that's going to be very difficult for them. So the point is, it's like, not only can Manchester United not slip up, but we can't even slip up. We can't slip up because of the fact that we got Liverpool coming up pretty soon. And the team has to continue this form, because we've seen that you really can only drop so many points in the Premier League and win. Even though this season is a little funky and the season is a little bit different, you still going to have to put forth that run of games. So we're going to need to propel ourselves to still keep this run of form, even while Kevin's out for this 4 to 6 weeks. So who's going to be able to step up in the midfield? And I got some suggestions. I think there's some early candidates, but I think at the end of the day, we really know who these people are going to be. And honestly, it's going to be this man. I think it's really going to be Phil Foden. It's really going to be Phil Foden asked to really fulfill his role and really see what Phil can really do. Now, let's just say this. Phil Foden has been ill for us throughout the years, and we know he's a kid. He's coming on. But the reason why I talk about him being such a youngster and being a kid is because at that point, if you go back to 18-19, he was really just starting to come on the scene. And then when you look forward to this season in particular, There have been times, especially in the Premier League early on in the season, where we wanted to see more of Phil Foden. And now it's going to be Phil Foden's chance to really get back in that midfield and being able to, really hold down that position at least for 4 to 6 weeks, because we know, and then that's kind of something I got to talk about here in a second. Bear with me 1 second while I really talk about this, is that you guys can remember, I think what it was about 4 weeks ago, where Guardiola was directly asked a question, because at that time, not only did Manchester City fans want to see Phil Foden playing more, but Phil Foden wasn't really getting into the team like that. So one of the commentators or one of the reporters after the game asked Pep, Pep, what are you going to do with Phil Foden? When can Manchester City fans start to, see him a little bit more? And his answer at the time was very interesting to me. And honestly, keeping it real, I didn't really like his answer at the time. But yo, Pep, you my man, 50 grand right now. We rocking and rolling. So just know, no matter what I say in this video, son, I trust you when it comes to that Premier League, because the main thing is the main thing. And other people are going to be making videos about our game today against Charlton Town, which was a good game, but I'm not going to really touch upon that separate competition. But the main thing has to be the main thing. And the main thing is the Premier League. So what Pep has to do is be able to fulfill those roles. Now, back to the point. One thing that Pep Guardiola said when you watch Pep Guardiola about 4 weeks ago, he said that Phil Foden was not going to be able to play. He didn't see Phil Foden playing in the midfield. He did not see Phil Foden playing in the midfield. So he said that he would suggest that Phil Foden be playing as a winger for right now. So that was 4 weeks ago. And I shout out Guardiola for even saying that, for being able to say, you know what, I see him as a winger for right now. But the key thing is, now with Kevin De Bruyne out, what is Guardiola really going to be able to do? Because I think it needs to be Phil Foden back to the midfield. And I think you got a glimpse of that today against Charlton Town. Because if you're watching the game against Charlton Town, you know that, Phil Foden in the first half was kind of pushing forward on the left-hand side. But as the substitutions was made and things happen, you see Phil Foden start picking back up and start dropping back into that midfield. And Phil Foden is going to have to get back into that role of playing that. Excuse me. It could be as a number 10. There's many times where, Kevin De Bruyne has had to play the 10 this year. But there's also going to be times to where, Kevin De Bruyne was playing striker. Kevin De Bruyne is playing on the right-hand side of the midfield. But the question for me is, if I see Phil Foden, what positions do I want to see him playing in? I definitely want to see him playing in the 10. I can see him dropping back and helping out, Rodri sometimes. You know what I mean? Also, I can see him playing in the false 9 position. So he's able to adjust at this point. I think he's a creative player and he scores goals. That's one thing about Foden. Phil Foden's going to be able to score goals when he finds himself in forward positions. The only thing for Guardiola is, if Guardiola, and don't be surprised to see this, that you see a little bit more of us going back to that 4-2-3-1 with the double pivot. Because if we go back to that double pivot, it keeps everything safer, at least until we're able to fully acclimate to Kevin De Bruyne not being on the field. So against, our upcoming team in the Premier League, don't be surprised if you see the double pivot, and it's going to be a good decision, because you're going to have Rodri and then maybe Gundogan right there. But then if Phil Foden plays in that number 10 position, I think Foden can get busy in that number 10 position. I'm not too sure just yet, and this is just me. And, this is probably the reason why Guardiola answered the question the way it is. I don't think you're going to see Phil Foden where Rodri playing the CDM and then he's collecting in that 8 position. No. I don't think you're really going to see that. But that's just my story with Phil Foden. But who else could it be? It could be Bernardo Silva, if you really think about it. Bernardo Silva, I've already touched upon Bernardo Silva in other videos, but the one thing that I do know about Bernardo is Bernardo gets busy, aka the energy, man. He provides the battery source. He is the one that gets everything fluid in motion. So the one thing about him is he doesn't have to score goals for me. He doesn't even have to get assists, but he's gonna work. And he's tried to play that 8 position. Really did work out for him. But the real interesting question is, if it's a situation where we're playing like the the 4-2-3-1 with the double pivot, and you have Rodri, and then you have Gundogan. Now you could play Bernardo Silva, and Bernardo Silva could come into that role to where him and now a winger version of Foden are now able to link up. In the way that they've linked up is you can see in this one. So my interesting theory is that if he goes with the double pivot, don't be surprised to not see Bernardo playing in that 10 position. And I know Bernardo's not really a creator. I don't think he doesn't create in the sense of like a Foden or like a De Bruyne, in my opinion. But he can create like a heading opportunity. He likes to whip that ball in over the top. Does he really whip that ball in, on the ground level like a Foden or like a De Bruyne? I don't really see that, but he can whip that ball in over the top. And I really like that for him. So it's good to see him, but that'll be interesting as a dilemma. What does Pep do? Because now if you got Bernardo Silva playing in that 10 position, what do you do now on the right wing? Do you bring Mahrez back into the fold? So there's going to be some very interesting questions that Guardiola has to ask. I really think that we have the answers between Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva to be able to really get us past this 4 to 6 weeks. Now, when it comes to Liverpool will be an interesting one because I really do think at a Liverpool game, and just quote me on this, I don't care what he does. I don't care what he does. I know you could never guess a Guardiola lineup. But don't be shocked, especially against Liverpool, like in a month, if you could see Rodri, Gundogan, and Foden now playing instead of Bernardo, but Bernardo being on the wing in that game, having both of them too. So Pep, don't talk yourself out of it. Don't go extra defensive. You know we need that victory. But at the end of the day, I think Foden and Silva can play in pivotal games together. Just got to worry about the defense, but the defense is solid. So either way, I trust you. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button. Until next time, Blue is our city. We out.